Because it's evening over there.
Yeah, morning.
Yes, sir. How you doing?
Good. How about you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Is it
Thank you
too
for.
early for you?
No, 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 no. Today's just getting started. Although I'm gonna talk a little quietly because my wife is still asleep. But yeah,
Oh,
we're still.
sorry.
No, we're all good. We're all good.
So, first
Here
of
we go.
all,
Mm-hmm.
I like the jersey behind you.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. It's
Grow
my.
up grow up a Kobe fan.
Oh, of course, of course.
Yeah,
It was a big part of my growing up as well, and I was very
cool.
lucky to work with him few years. So yeah, it was a big part of my Laker memory right
Okay.
there.
First thing first, I know who you are and I've been following you, but there's not coaches in Taiwan. No. So can you like introduce yourself for the coaches in Taiwan?
Yes, sir. So my name is Misha Cavaye. I am a strength coach, massage therapist for the South Bay Lakers. That's the G League development team for the Lakers. So it's a semi-professional, minor league professional. We send players up, or players get sent down for development. I'm sure you guys if you watch the NBA, you'll be aware that right now at least 50% of the players playing in the playoffs have played in the G League at some point. So it's been a wonderful process of watching these young players, developing them, seeing certain guys like Alex Caruso playing for the Bulls, Gary Payton playing for the Warriors. We played against Jordan Poole, who played for the Warriors. So it's a wonderful experience of now you're getting to see these faces emerge in the NBA and play big minutes. It's been a really rewarding part. And not many people know about the G League. So that's the other thing is like I'm pretty proudful of my work, and not everybody really knows enough about it. We're a very serious basketball league, probably the second most competitive league in the world, and um, as you can see, the results are starting to show.
Yeah, I know the G League probably since I was like 15.
Mm,
And and I always know that there's player come back go back up through the G League and NBA.
hmm hmm
So do you get to like train NBA player? I mean like Lakers player? No.
I mean, it's you have your people that you work with, so everybody's in the NBA. That's the difference. So in the G League, I'm by myself, and I have to plan for everybody. And it's not always like that, but it's sort of you're in charge and it's just you. In the NBA, you're going to have at least two, if not three, strength coaches, and they're going to sort of take on three to four players each, and sort of
Okay,
be sort of more of a group thing.
okay.
And so that is just because of that. Everybody already kind of has been assigned somebody. And in the off season, I usually just get tagged along with the new guys that are incoming, the new guys that are going to be part of South Bay, and sort of start grooming them, which is cool. So I get to work with all the incoming rookies and all the people from Summer League. And we had a well-known player called Mac McClung, who was a high-rising jumping player, was very famous on YouTube and so forth. So I got to work with him from Summer League all the way through our season. So I don't always get to work with the big time NBA players just because of my role in the G League. Um, but one day soon, I'm sure that's going to change.
Cool. So I want to talk first thing I want to talk is like about testing.
Mm.
And no matter it's in the NBA or in G League, uh, do you do like tests before you start training these athletes? And what kind of test do you do? Is it like force plate or velocity based training or like any movement assessment you do?
So I forget what exactly the Lakers do. I'm sure they do something. Um, they do like they put these sensors on your shins, like right around here, and then you do like
Okay.
different, like a squat or a drop test, just to measure the valgus and varus of the knees.
Oh,
That's one. I forget what it's called. Um, we do a Y balance movement assessment. That's just pretty much a single leg stance, hip hinge balance kind of assessment. It's pretty basic and pretty good. So Y balance, I think they're related to FMS, but we don't do
yeah.
FMS. We don't do FMS, and the Lakers have force plates, but we don't have access to that. For me personally, it's very simple. It's actually um, sometimes we might use the Y balance, but this past year we just didn't. You'd be surprised how much you can learn through just simple exercises. So here's my point. While FMS is a great assessment tool, it doesn't show me the things I need to see. However, I have the certain exercises that if I put a person through, it doesn't matter if it's an athlete or an average person, you'll start to see sooner or later what they need or what they're weak at. Because at the end of the day, every exercise is a test. Um, every exercise is a variable you're changing to challenge the person. And so these become the best assessment tools anyway. I have I have some like for me because I'm a massage therapist, I do some posture assessments. We do some range of motion assessments, but even then, like all of that can change so much. You'd be surprised. Assessment is not necessarily something I go by the book. It's more something from my knowledge. Let me work with this person. Let me see what they need, and then I pretty much figure it out. Once we get through our activation, once we get through our core, before we even hit the strength, we're probably going to figure out where they lie. I hate to sound orthodox, but that's pretty much what works best for me. Um,
Okay.
and as far as tracking information, I mean, it's again, these guys, they usually tend to be very bad at movement assessments. um, because they tend to be very tough too. That's the other issue. And it's like, okay, they're bad at it. They obviously need work, and so that's the other thing. It's like, what do we get with this information? So that's why I kind of also just jump the gun, and let's let the exercise be the test. Because, yeah, again, movement tests, great. Yep, they're bad at single leg stance. All right, what now? Let's go work on single leg stance. So if you already are doing that, if you're already programming and sort of analyzing in your program, you don't really necessarily need so many movement assessments. Maybe as a starting point, but this is just my mindset.
That was true. That was true. But so you mentioned that you have force plate, that but you don't exactly use it. Why?
Because we're, well, I could have access to it. I could have access to it. I'm not intrigued as much because I know that the body's asymmetrical. You are never gonna find somebody who's gonna put equal on both legs. It's just not possible. We don't have a body that's wired for it. We don't have a body that's built for it, and it's not designed for it either. So again, it's like, what does the force plate tell us? It's going to tell us an imbalance, but how much of an imbalance is that's the concern because we don't want to see too much, obviously. And again, you're going to find that out pretty easily through exercises, right? When you put them
True,
through
true.
split squats and plyos. I'm very big into plyos and lots of variations of plyos because A, basketball players need it. B, they're tests. They're all tests. They're all tests of balance, proprioception, coordination, explosive reactivity. And a lot of basketball players, believe it or not as good with plyos as we might think.
Oh,
They're explosive, but when they do, and here's the funny thing, they love doing them as well. They don't like doing big lifts as much because that's hard for them.
yeah.
Plyos they might not be as good at initially, but they really love doing it. They always jump at the challenge. And then over time they get better at it. And that's, I think, a good thing. So, plyos are a great test, and we soon start to see where the weaknesses. We soon start to see that, you know, this is one side of the body that clearly he doesn't trust. clearly that needs more work on. So again, the force plates, and here's the thing, here's my pitch. Whenever someone says force plates to me, I said, nobody's more interested in how we gravitate and hold ourselves over two legs more than me. That is what I'm obsessed about. I have most of my certifications are all about balance of the human body. That's why I know you're chasing a ghost by trying to chase that.
Yeah.
And so it's like force plates, it's intriguing, but I'm just like, it's not going to tell me anything that's going to make me go, yes, that was great information. It's just not, because we
Okay.
just already know. And again, let's put them through. And so what makes me, like, what's my niche? I would feel my program is very sort of specific to the human body. I'm not very, I do my traditional lifts, of course. We do some deadlifts, we do squats, but we do a lot of movement-based training. We do a lot of stance training, reciprocal training, alternation training, because that is the human body, is going from one leg to the other, one leg to the other, one leg to the other. So for me, that is my obsession. That is where I want to really start working, is let's get you into the world of left to right hemispheres. And it's kind of like playing tennis. You got to have two, and not tennis, but you got to have a tennis rally. You need to have a ball going back and forth smoothly. If one of your players aren't that good, the ball's not going to go back and forth smoothly. That is your two legs. And it's got to go 1, 2, 1, 2. And believe it or not, somewhere along that line, people mess up. Like, people have kinks, people have imbalances, every human body. And to work on that, develop on that, is where the true magic happens, in my opinion. And therefore, force plate telling me that he's got way more right weight on his right than his left is, I don't know. You know, I'm just not, it hasn't sold me yet.
Okay. Okay. How about like power output or like reactive strength index, that kind of stuff?
What's the reactive strength index? Remind me.
Like drop jump, and it's gonna like calculate the ground contact time and the jump height.
It's great information. If you have it. So in the G League, the problem more is just lack of people enough. Like, we're short staffed, so therefore adding technologies for more information is not necessarily usually our mindset, because
Okay,
we're
cool.
usually just trying to kind of survive. Whereas in the NBA, you have so many people. I guess that's where you start to just think of different ideas, and that's why you need technology to objectify different things. So that's just the only reason. I think it's good stuff. And for example, I like using, in the weight room, we have the tonal machine. I don't know if you guys know what that is. It's the panel that goes into your wall, and you can do all kinds of cable, home gym style. Uh,
Okay.
and it tells you basically every time you do a chop or whatever push, it tells you, the velocity. And I think that's pretty interesting, because on your reps, it'll tell you each rep if it goes higher or lower. And that's a nice little feedback for the guy, especially if we're doing some sort of, power chop or explosive chop,
Yeah.
something like that. They get to kind of see that. So yeah, it's all helpful stuff to have. I'm pretty interested in the, what do you ever call it, the velocity, the things you put on the bar. It measures the velocity of the bar, but we just don't have those yet. Um, but again, these are they're cool tools, but at the end of the day, so much in this world, we have all these cool gadgets, tools, but there's not enough getting down and doing the proper work. Right? And that's
Yeah,
my
true.
issue, right? So it's like, yeah, we can have all these tools, but the problem is it's still the same. These players don't like loading, and they're not good at loading on single leg. And then, like I said, the plyo, which is reactive and bouncing off single leg legitimately, that's where we also need some work, you know? Let's clean up the reciprocation, alternation. Let's get them a little more aware of that they have two legs. That's just me. That's my what I'm really looking to change or do better in the basketball world anyways. Just I think we're not doing enough for the human body, whether it's an athletic body or regular body. The human body needs to be trained in certain ways to get the most out of it. And that's I think what we need to focus on, especially with basketball, because you can see there's so many injuries.
Yeah. So you talk about like imbalance and stance,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And I also see you do a lot of like core training.
Mm.
So why do you think like athletes like have these kind of like talent, they jump so high, they run so fast, they still need and they need to do like this much of like core training or all those different kind of things?
Yeah, so it's very interesting. So in fact, because like the most explosive athletes are also the worst stabilizers. Simple way to think about it is, well, it's all gas, no brakes, or what that's American saying. All gas, no means you can all pedal, you're going forward, but you don't have any brakes. You know, fast twitch fibers are great at exploding, but it's not the same as concentric concentric contractions of your muscles and stopping. So that's why when you see somebody that's really athletic, somebody like Gary Payton II, who's on Golden State right now, and he's found himself a home with a team, but he was very much in and out the NBA and almost not on an NBA team beginning of the season. Um, just super, super, super athletic. Born naturally with had wonderful parents who are very athletic as well. And when he worked with us, he needed a lot of work. And he obviously natural athlete, doesn't have a good work ethic. So, that tends to also be with this high caliber, I think in pro basketball anyway, everybody was a superstar at one point.
Yeah.
Everybody was a superstar. So they also don't have the best habits. Now, some of that is changing. Players are realizing they have to work hard. Players are realizing, Kobe went down from injury. Even LeBron's getting injured. Like, you got to take this stuff seriously. So obviously, there is a sense to change and want to do better. Um, um, but yeah, yeah.
Get it. So what about stats?
Set.
I mean, instead of like core training, what about like stance? You just mentioned and you talk a lot on your Instagram.
Oh,
Oh,
stance. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. So that's what I mean. Like, and that's all a part of core is because, like I said, we have one leg versus the other. Now, your core is ultimately connecting your rib cage to the pelvis. Yeah, that's the core. Yeah, in the most simple thing. So getting rid of arms and legs. All right. But now we need to obviously put in arms and legs to sort of complete the picture. And that's where I said, well, we got one leg, then the other. So our core has to integrate with that. It has to be able to shift, go from one leg, shift, go from the other leg, and
yeah,
the rib cage has to be able to go with that. And so, like I was saying, with your previous question is like, the problem is everything we do is through practice. Muscle memory wins, right? Muscle memory wins the game. And a lot of times with basketball, they're just so naturally gifted. They've just played the basketball game and they've developed these wonderful athletic abilities just through playing. Part of what we're trying to do as strength coaches, even with a regular sedentary or athletic person, is create good muscle memory of movement. That's kind of what we're supposed to be doing, unless you're building for size or physique. But the whole goal in terms of movement training is enhance the muscle memory and make them a better mover subconsciously, right? Whether it's stronger or fluidity. And so that's realistically is sort of what we're trying to do, is sort of create better patterns, create better sort of trust. And they're not good at it because path of least resistance, this is an important one. Path of least resistance is the winner in our body. The brain will always pick the path of least resistance to learn something, do something, subconsciously do something. And so therefore, voila, that's also another reason why we have a dominancy to one side, why we have all these sort of imbalances. And yes, athletes learn to jump off one leg and do so really well off one leg, but they don't tend to naturally learn to do things as well on both legs. So this is it. So this is kind of reasons. A, we are naturally asymmetrical. B, we're naturally picking the path of least resistance. So we're not inclined to actually be good at one or both legs. I have this saying, there's always one bad leg or two bad legs with an athlete. There's never two good legs. I see players who have an ACL tear, and some guys have had bilateral surgeries on both knees. And it's just like, how are you trying to play basketball? But they can do it. But this shows there's a lot of discrepancy. I don't think we've reached our maximum potential, and it's because I don't believe we're working enough stance and integration, because that is a big missing piece. Go figure, you're taking step, and you want to be able to make sure your ribs and hips are always integrating.
So that's also the reason why you do a lot of like 3D movement you post on Instagram, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
yeah.
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 So does that mean like you do more movement than like things like power output, like we just mentioned, like heavy lifting or like plyos?
No, you gotta sort of mix it in. So here's the thing. I feel in the strength industry, there's people who are movement trainers and functional trainers. Get a bit of a bad name, functional training, but whatever. And then there's your traditional lifters and heavy, all that. I feel like the traditional lifters or the traditional strength and conditioning is making a bit of a pushback lately, because I think a lot of people got on the whole functional training, and I think exercise became way too fancy, and it became all about just sort of the most creative exercise. And I understand the argument for traditional strength and conditioning, because they're sort of trying to bring back the argument for loading. Let's get back to like pushing big weight. And let me say how important that actually is. That is important, because nothing creates neurological change faster than bearing load. So you have a damaged knee, chances are there's going to be lingering pain even after your soft tissue and swelling clears. That's a neurological trust issue. Well, how do we overcome that? Well, we have to get it stronger. We get it stronger with strengthening and training all around, 360, glutes, hamstring, adductors, and the knee pain actually will start to disappear. So that is the power of loading. That is true rehab. You have to load. So I 100% understand that we definitely want to put on the weight. But this is all beauty of our programming. This is what we have to become experts in. Like how you spend your time. Are you going to be just doing compound lifts 3 times a week and don't do anything else? Or are you going to sprinkle it in and maybe like my core is all stance, reciprocal, movement base. So they get a lot of that there. Then my strength tends to be a little bit more narrowed in, more bilateral based. But sometimes even then, there's so much we can challenge a person to push a heavy weight while focusing on a few other things. So it's just all the programming, man. It's just if you find a way to fit it all in, There's definitely ways you can fit it all in, get somebody nice, big,
Yeah,
stronger, and moving better.
yeah, cool. So next thing, can we talk about like in-season training?
Mm.
How would you like program in-season training? Do you do like pre-game lift or like post-game this, that kind of stuff? Or
Yeah, we did. We well, first of all, for G League, it's tough because I see the guys for the season and that's it. And the way it is G League, they only do like short-term housing. So for us, they only do hotels, unfortunately. And basically, yeah, once the season's done, the hotel contract's up, and then players go back home. Nobody's actually local. I don't think we've ever really recruited anybody locally. So therefore, that's the thing. I work with guys for 5 months and then I'm done, and then I'm waiting for summer league and training camp and that whole process to start again. So that's limitation number one is short term. So therefore, the mindset of when we are together has to be a little bit of maintain, but some push. All right, because G League is still very impacted. We still have three games a week at least. Um, we don't have the nice travel. We travel like regular people, and oftentimes we have to do connection flights because we're going to smaller cities. We don't have direct flights, so the travel is a lot harder than the NBA, which is usually straight after the game. You get on your bus, private terminal, private airplane. It's much more easier. So that also takes an effect. So we definitely we do. Our coach wants to do team lifts, so we definitely do team lifts at home or shorter sort of group sessions. So that's one way. Players obviously check in with me individually. Um, that's where I see some more than others. But we were a pre-game lift group. The players really enjoyed lifting before games. That's become a big thing in the NBA. Um, that's, I think, more common thing. The post game lift is scattered. Some teams do it, some don't. Our team currently does not. They're not believers in it. I'm not believers in it, and I've not been convinced yet. I know the reasoning, but I think I think it's better you come in the next day. We can do some repositioning activities, maybe a little bit of loading, maybe just a little bit of just movement, and I believe you'll feel better doing that than the whole consolidation, and you're just going to sit at home and not do anything, and just come in the day after. I mean, if you want to do a post game lift, go ahead. But from what I've seen and people I've worked with, we're not fans of it.
cool. So what would you like do when it's like for pre-game lift?
So again, definitely want to hammer down on some movement concepts, but with some loading. Um, there's ways, again, we can, whether it's a push and pull, that we can put the body in a position that will challenge our hips, hamstrings, adductor stance, whether it's a half kneeling position, a staggered position, or whatever, as you see on my Instagram, I got lots of different variations. But the whole point is let's get some, like I said, let's get some adductors and hamstrings check with some core and then push, because now we're activating and loading. You see, I'm not actually a big fan of using the glute band, for example. Oh, we'll do
Yeah,
once in a while. There's a couple of exercises, but it's a very one-dimensional exercise, literally pun intended, because the way you're moving the knee against the glute band, you're changing the whole biomechanics in a three-dimensional setting. So let's get more bang for your buck. So we'll do pre-game lift. Typically, I pick 5 exercises. We're going to go 2 times through, and those 5 exercises will be 2 core exercises, something basic that I definitely want to challenge the breathing and get all of that activated. Something triplanar rotational that we're starting to explore, this rotational feeling, very important if we're about to go run and play basketball. Then we'll do an upper body push and pull, but of course with a little bit of lower body twist, whether it's a stance hold or core position, and then something for the lower body, and usually single leg, just to challenge that. Make sure they get both legs activated. And I actually always threw in a little plyo too, believe it or not. They just for lower reps, little plyo is activating and stimulating. So even pre-game, we did, quick set of plyos before, and they really enjoyed it. So that's what I mean. It's just like stuff to get you loaded, moving, and balanced. How about that? That's what a pre-game lift would consist of for me.
Cool. So how long would the session be like?
20 minutes.
Oh.
Yeah, cool. Quick. Because, their game days are long because, it's a long time. So you don't need to spend too much time in there. Were you expecting longer?
No, just curious.
Okay, but a regular lift for me, I want longer for sure. It's 20 minutes is too short. Regular lift, I want at least 30 minutes. And we're gonna have to go at least, I have usually two rounds of exercises, core and strength, and we're gonna go at least 2, if not 3 times through. Pre-game, I'm always mindful of the game is most important, and then after lift, they're then gonna go shoot, and I want the shooting experience to be important, or be a great experience, because that's gonna lead into the game. So this is why it's like I don't care about so much my stuff. I want my stuff to prepare them for the next stuff, which is the basketball game, and that's where it's a long process. You want the shots to go well because they start missing all these shots and be grumpy, and that doesn't help them. So you want them to be, at the end of the day, everything's about making them feel great. I have to make them feel great rather than breaking them down and doing what I think is going to make them a better athlete. You kind of have to cater to them a little bit, because they are the vessel. They're the drivers of their vessel, So player's choice is the word I use often. I'm like, player's choice, what do you want to do? You got this or this? And sometimes the harder and easier option. And they might pick the harder one, they might pick the easier one. But the fact that you gave them a choice, I think is an important thing.
Cool. So, how much time how much time before the game you're gonna do the pre-game lift we just mentioned?
Yeah, we start around the games of 7, and we start with groups coming in around 4 something, I think.
Okay.
Our team, the last shooting group, goes into the meeting before we come out, in our uniforms at like 30 minutes before 7. So in just from like 4 to 6:30, you got like groups of 2 coming in, and that's sort of the setup, and it's basically like they first start in a treatment room, get their stretches, whatever, and then they come to me, and then they go in the court, and they go back into the locker room and get themselves mentally sort of prepared.
Great. So next thing would be like pre-game warm-up.
So that's the thing, is like that was pretty, they've done so much, and even for them, they just want to get on the court. Basketball players are tough. I had our defensive guy. So, because you're talking about once they're in uniform on the court, right?
Yeah.
So you see, they're good to go. Yeah, they're really just good to go. And I had our defensive stopper who wanted to do a little extra defensive footwork with me with the band, so we would do that, But after that, yeah, they're pretty good to go. I'm even satisfied, so long as they did their pregame routine, they got their shots up. Once they're in uniform, they just want to be on the court, and that's when they do their layup lines, their dunks, their silly shots, their whatever. Let them decompress and do what they do at that point. I'm not. I know some coaches have a whole little routine then going on.
Like
I've
like
uh,
like like Red Larson has like cool stuff like dancing, that kind of stuff before
yeah.
pregame.
So I don't know. I think in the NBA maybe they're there a little bit longer and they're drag. They're just a little get. Plus they're older. They might get a little more cold, so they need more of that. Okay, I need to retune myself. Our guys, because they tend to be younger, trust me, after the coach is done talking, well, they linger a bit. They don't run out, but they're just wanting to get out. They really just want to they take their time, but they just want to get out. They just want to play basketball. They want to shoot
Okay,
and they want to go. I think that's good. If any individual wants to see me for a little something, I'm there. I'm standing on half court. But usually it's just one individual that wants to sort of get themselves retuned up. Otherwise, at a G League level anyway, this group they just want to play at that
cool,
point.
cool. So last thing, okay?
Yeah, no worries.
You at the beginning you mentioned like you worked with Kobe before, right?
hmm
Can you like tell everyone like a little story about like and Kobe?
There wasn't anything too like great, like crazy. Um, there were just little sort of things that were so surreal for a guy that you know, at the time I was even new to the job because you got to think about it. Like the last 3 years, he was so injured, he was rarely around even. So the last 3 years was like, he barely practiced with the team. He would just show up at Staples. So that was very little interaction. It was more the first 2 years. That's when he was still, at the end of his prime. They were kind of, fighting for championship, sort of. So that was when he was kind of around and one cool story was when it was Mike Brown was still the coach, and that was my first year. He's very interactive. He likes to get people involved in practice. And because I was young, he was like, "All right, I want you to kind of just be an offensive kind of, you're scouting offense. You be this guy." And for me, being just a nobody, that was so cool. I guess all of our coaches were kind of old at the time, so they didn't want to get on the court, so they just needed somebody. And then one day, Kobe was guarding me, and I remember he took it so seriously, and he like pushed and prodded me hard, and it was like no joke. And that was actually it, because at the time I remember some human resources person saw that. I was like, oh, he's not a full-time employee. If he gets hurt, we're not going to pay his benefits, so he can't do that. And so that was my one and only time I was put on the court and Kobe guarded me. Never again, but that was pretty awesome. And then because of my role at the time, I was an assistant equipment manager at the time. This was when I first started. I was a ball boy equipment manager. And so because Kobe was coming and leaving on his helicopter a lot of days, the godforsaken helicopter, on certain days, if it was called for, hey, go take him to the airport, which was 5 minutes down the street. Um, no fancy car, just take the equipment van, and you and Kobe drive down the street. So, obviously the first time I ever did that, so nervous, was driving in the dark with no lights on. And Kobe was like, you don't even have your lights on. And that was out, and that was before at first I couldn't even figure out how to switch the car on because I was so nervous. But as time progressed, as I got to do it a few more times, I got a little more confidence. And he would always just sit there quietly on his phone. He wouldn't, very intimidating, just not really approachable. But I figured up, worked up the confidence, and I started talking to him about some things. I know he played piano a little bit, and my parents are piano teachers, so I try to talk to him about that. But for me, the most inspirational conversation, because I was looking to go into the field of massage therapy, performance training, I asked him like, "Hey, so who do you work with mostly for massage, or what kind of people?" And he listed off, "Well, I have a guy that does this and this, and I really enjoy this kind of work." and that's when led me to kind of pursue myofascial release, because he said that he does myofascial release a lot. He does a lot of, trigger point stuff. So I kind of learned all this stuff because of he was saying that this is what he did. So that was just, massively inspirational. And then in his final 2 years, when he was really like broken down, he was partnered with this research company. I guess he was trying to maximize his longevity. And this research company gave him this practitioner. I don't know, have you heard of Fugenetics?
No, not really.
Fugenetics is another assessment program. Nothing great. Some NBA teams use it, some don't. It's just, some live by it, some will be like it's nothing. It's just range of motion enhancement. Let's check it, whatever. So this guy, whatever. Point is, again, if you got the sale, you run with it. But this guy had Kobe, and they would privately go into a separate locker room because it's like Kobe wanted to just be away from everybody. And I was always working visiting team locker rooms, and this was right next to the locker room where Kobe and this practitioner was going. And so I got to like open the door for him like every day because I sort of had the access. And this practitioner who was also just a massage therapist, trainer, license, no high doctoral title, was very humble. And he would, before Kobe showed up, he would be like, yeah, this is kind of stuff we do, and this is what, this is the way I try to do at work, and this is how we like to get athletes ready. And that was so big, and sort of actually I'm kind of doing the same thing just in my own way, that really sort of shaped me to wanting to be somebody that ultimately prepares athletes at the highest, of the game, and I know every strength coach is doing that, but I had this sort of mindset that I really wanted to be able to go to the high level and really dive in deep, thinking of, okay, well, you're gonna be shooting the last shot of the game. How do we get you mentally prepared for that? I was very inspired by that high level of that, thinking, training. That's what really drove me.
That was cool. That was cool. That was cool. Really love it. So that's kind
Yeah.
of like all the question I have for today.
Oh
So
yeah.
if there's like coaches are interested in what we're talking about today, where can they reach out to you?
I mean, on Instagram is the easiest way, obviously direct messages are sometimes tough to respond to, but Instagram is usually the best way to get a hold of me. I'm always happy to sort of do these sort of Q&As, and if you're sort of interested in learning about some of the stuff that I've talked about, I believe this program has done courses in Taiwan. They definitely do in Japan. Postural Restoration Institute. Just a good little shout
Oh,
out to them.
PRI.
PRI, yeah, PRI. You guys see
Yo,
heard of it?
I don't think they've done in Taiwan before.
No, Taiwan, okay, but they're definitely up in Japan. They definitely
Okay.
have a lot of practitioners in Japan. Not that it will help you guys with the language, but I'm just saying it's close enough. But PRI is a big sort of influencer. Um, no one else really influenced me on the journey, but it's helped me massively. And
I can
again,
tell I can tell
yeah,
it from your post and from what we just talked today.
yeah, because there's a lot of truth to it. It's a lot, everything that they preach is research proven, It's just what you're doing with this information is the key. Um, it's complicated stuff and it's very deep, and then sometimes might not be end solutions, but they are management strategies you can come up with. And that's where I faced some backlash before, even from within my own department about PRI. But at the end of the day, from what I just said, management strategies makes you at the top of the game. Like you can really sort of figure stuff out because you
Yeah.
understand what's going on with the body better. And this is why assessments and force plates don't mean as much to me, because I'm looking at the body in such a sort of more out, like, zoomed out sort of way.
I get it.
So
That's why
and
yeah. Continue, please.
no, that's the only reason I don't want to sound like I'm an anti-assessment guy, or I don't care. This is, trust me, there's very deep levels to my thinking, which is why I don't do those sort of things, because I have other ways that I want to assess people.
Agreed. Really love it. And that's kind of like the main reason I reach out to you, because I love the post and I love that we talk about like movement, asymmetry, and like uh, a single leg and
Yeah,
core training, right? Core and
because
breathing.
yeah, so I want to go back to the one question, which I almost got a little, I know I got lost off topic. You asked me about, sort of players and why are they so, they're so good at what they do, but they lack of this. Yeah, I mean, exactly. They spend their whole lives doing just that, and they become really good at doing just that. But we need to do all this. This is our body. This is grounding, like I almost say, we live in our stress zone, whether it's your office person or an athlete. We live in a stress zone, and that takes our body into ranges that it doesn't like I said, path of least resistance. So being able to sort of spend time and dive into this other realm, which we're not always in, and we're not necessarily as conscious of, because we think of rest as just rest. We don't necessarily think of rest as breathing properly and sort of recentering ourselves, and maybe doing exercise that's a little more nurturing. Like, how about even just a walk outside in the sun is sometimes very beneficial. I preached all the time to my players. We're blessed. We're in LA. I tell them all the time on off days, guys, please go to the beach. You guys, please go to the beach today. And I mean, I know we're very lucky, but even if we were out in the cold, I would try to tell people, go for a walk in the cold. No one would do it, but you got to get outside.
Yeah,
Reconnecting outside
for sure.
is very important. It's going to
Yes.
help you recover faster.
Yeah.
Affect tension levels. Yeah, being inside is not, it's yes, again, the whole, yeah, if you want to rest, consolidate your stress and rest and just be inside all day, I don't think that's true, the best recovery.
Yeah.
I think the body needs to move. It has to move, but let's move in conservative and nice ways, and ways that are, again, reciprocate, alternate, and again, sort of these sort of holistic sort of patterns that we need to get back to. But hey, whether you're an athlete or a sedentary person, nobody's good at this stuff, because we don't practice this stuff. We practice all the other stuff, which is the intense stuff. The thrill chasing, the adventures, the money chasing, the goal chasing. Then we do all of the work, traffic, stress, all that. Okay, now we go to the gym, and now we're in a dark gym. We hear loud music, got our headphones in. We're not trying to talk to anybody. We just want to go home. We're just sort of cranking out these reps. We might be doing some good, but we also could be doing a lot of tension and damage, because we're completely sort of neglecting what our body needs. Yes, it does need loading, strength, but if you haven't sort of grounded yourself and worked on your breathing, trust me, you're never going to find balance between left and right unless you get your breathing down. It's funny, but it's like that.
True. Agree.
Mm.
So today we focus on like your role in a team setting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So is it possible like we do a second episode and probably dive a little bit deeper into like breathing and stance?
Yeah, absolutely. Because
Cool.
there's so much more we could talk about that, and yeah, like I said, it's everybody needs it,
Yeah.
because everybody has everybody has a body that's really knows one way better than the other.
Yeah.
So,
Cool.
and that's one of my jobs is, let me teach you the full spectrum.
Cool. So that's kind of all for today. Okay.
Cool.
So if there's like anyone interested in or talking about, just reach out to you through Instagram, right?
Please, I'd be happy to. I'm always happy to do some interviews and stuff like that.
Okay. And when we finish, can I call you like later?
Yeah.
So okay. See you.
All right. Thanks, Eric. I appreciate you. Appreciate everyone for tuning in.
Appreciate it.
See you next time.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.